ZBA. On May 21, 2019, Malawians went to the polls to elect president, members of parliament and councillors. The European Union was among key election observers to this election. Now, head of the EU election observation team to Malawi, Miroslav Poche, has granted Zodiac an exclusive interview discussing their failed presentation of a final report on the election observation. Mr. Poche has spoken to our Gabriel Kamromo in this exclusive interview.
Welcome, Mr. Poche. What would you say is the difference that observer missions make in election management in Africa, given the persistent allegations of rigging that we hear?
You know, the European Union does more than 20 election observation missions around the whole world per year. We have very precise methodology, and we bring knowledge. We bring recommendations at the end of the whole assessment for governments, national assemblies, election commissions to make a more robust electoral process at the end of the observation.
Since 1994, the EU has been observing elections in Malawi.
Yep.
You make the recommendations you talk about at the end of each of the elections. How much of your input do you reckon is taken aboard?
For example, from our final recommendations on elections 2014, more than around 60% of them were implemented by Malawian government.
What do you make of a view on the street that perhaps this is only a formality? That's what people think.
It is not. It needs huge involvement of the government and passing the bill through the National Assembly. We see improvement of voters' registration. The difference between 2014 and 2019 was very much different. But of course, there is still space for improvement. So that's why we are here now, and we have finalized our final report, which we postponed and will be published in February.
You have obviously been following events and development in Malawi post-May elections.
Yes.
What justified your deciding to come to present your final report at this point in time?
It is part of our procedures, our framework of our work, that we publish final report within 6 months after the elections. But we already once postponed in November our visit because of security situation in the country. So we decided to come at the beginning of January. But when we discussed after arrival with diplomats and head of missions of the European Union member states in the country, we decided to postpone publishing of the final report. But the mission is deployed, so we met representatives of political parties, we discussed with them the situation, we met other stakeholders, and but the final report will be published in February.
Obviously, this was an afterthought. You're already here, and then a decision is made. You're not going to take action that you had planned.
You know, but it is of key importance that you understand that final report is a technical document. It has nothing to do with interference within the political situation or even judicial process. These recommendations we bring are for future, for National Assembly, government, how to act and how to improve the electoral process in next period. So even if we publish the final report, it would not anyhow interfere in the recent political situation in Malawi.
Your view remains that there was nothing that was going to be affected by the publication of that report. Were you surprised when the opposition and civil society reacted in the way they did?
I was, but we were. But you know, because opposition and politicians should know from history, from past, that our final reports are not anyhow acting within political situation. These documents are really a base for decision making of government and MAC and other bodies, authorities in the country. But we decided because the situation is not calm.
You give me the impression, your interpretation of the political atmosphere in Malawi is that it's better now than it was 3 months ago. Because by postponing in July, because there was political instability.
No, it is not. It's very similar. People, not just political representatives, but also public, await the decision of the Kurd. The Kurd postponed his decision for weeks, so it's not much different situation than in November. That's why we decided to come and to present, but we postponed.
Are you disappointed you were not able to do what you came here to do?
Me personally, I am, but again, the final report can wait a month more because this is a long-term document. It should be implemented within next 3 or 4 years. We will be back in Malawi with so-called follow-up mission in the midterm to check again whether recommendations were implemented or not. Reforms which we recommended were in pipeline already. So I am a bit disappointed, but again, in February you will get a final report, I hope.
Your preliminary report, going through it, I noticed that you never discussed the issue of transmission of results of elections. You never discussed the actual announcements of the results of the tripartite elections. You actually make note of that in the introduction to that report. Is transmission and announcement of results of elections a focus of the EU observer mission?
Of course it is. We observe the whole process from voters registration until the announcement of final results. But you know, part of our procedure or methodology is that we publish preliminary report within 2 or 3 days after the elections. We couldn't wait until the 8 days period for MAC to publish official results. So we had conference already 2 days after the elections, and we mainly tackled pre-election period and polling day observations.
Does the final report discuss those two aspects? The transmission.
Of course, but I don't want to.
No. We may not go into what the discussion is.
Of course. Final report is complete observation and assessment of the whole election period.
That presentation, the final presentation, how far away is it from the preliminary report that you published?
Final report is really very.
Is there a departure from discussion in the preliminary report?
No, it is not. But you know, final report is completely different document than a preliminary statement. Final report assesses also and tackles media freedom, women participation, civil society, not just work of MAC or of government. It's a complete picture of political and election landscape of the country.
No, right. I take it is just an extension of the preliminary report.
No, it is not. It's more comprehensive.
After the planned presentation of the final report failed, you went around meeting stakeholders. What were you discussing?
At first, we discussed the political situation, of course, and the reasons why we postponed the final report, because some political representatives were not happy with postponement somewhere, so we had to discuss with them. We met a wide range of stakeholders, not just political parties, but also ministers and the others. So we just presented our opinion, and we of course discussed the situation before and after Kurd decision.
Some of these stakeholders outright refused to meet you. Do you think they lost an opportunity?
At the end, when we decided to postpone the presentation, we met many stakeholders who refused previously to meet us.
Mr. Poche, would you tell me this? How often have your final reports in elections as EU contradicted the preliminary reports?
This I can say because...
has there been a situation where the preliminary report you produced contradicted the final report?
It should not. I don't think so, because our final report was has been finished by the mid-June already, and I would like to mention here that there are rumors within social medias and public in Malawi that there was a leak, or did we wait with finalization of final report after the current decision. It is not true. The final report has been finished from June already, and the final report is not in the country now, so there is no space for leak. Yeah, right. It's very important. But and that's why I would like to say that preliminary report is somehow in preface for final report. It should not be contradictory.
It should be contradictory. We agree. Do you understand now that you're going back, given the Malawi political landscape, why stakeholders thought it was ill time to publish the report now? Are you going back convinced with the reasons?
Because many political representatives do not understand what the final report means. The final report is really a base, roadmap for future reforms. It has, of course, it is assessment of pre-election and election day, and then after election day procedures of MEC and government. But mainly it tackles the future, and this was misunderstood by many political representatives here, and it made this situation.
Do you consider this mission accomplished?
It is not. My mission will be accomplished after so-called follow-up mission in 2 years, when we will back again in Malawi to see whether our recommendations were implemented.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Poche. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.